am I? Am I? Did you say I was
Yeah,
starting? All
you're up,
right,
buddy.
all right.
You're up,
Pretend you
bud.
didn't hear that. Okay, welcome back to another episode of Monsters with Attitude. Tonight we are discussing the music of Godzilla, specifically from the 1950s and the 60s. So, joining us today, starting from which way am I pointing? This way is.
That's the wall, buddy.
Hey, I'm sick. It's all right. I'm doing my best. Is Adrian? How you doing, Adrian?
What's up, Aaron? I'm doing all right, brother. How you doing? What's going on, Kaiju family?
All right. After him is. Should I just say your first names? I don't. I've never. Is Eric? What's up,
There
Eric?
you go.
Me? What? No, I'm good, man. I'm so excited to talk about this. Talking about
Yeah.
some Showa melodies. My man Akira Fukube. So, yeah, let's go.
Legend.
Yeah. So below Eric is Thomas. How you doing,
Hey,
Thomas?
how you guys doing? I know it's been a minute since I've been on, so this is going to be
Yes.
this
It's
is
been
going
a
to be fun.
long minute.
This
Welcome
is going
Yeah,
to
I'm
be fun.
excited. I haven't been on the show with you. In a while. And next to Thomas, below me is Michael.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello there.
Hello, hello.
And I know we've all been excited to do this topic just because it's. I feel like it's a thing every fan knows and is aware of, but I, at least in my experience, it doesn't really get talked about too much in depth. So I've always wanted to do a music show, and since this is a part one, it's not the only time we'll be discussing it over the next year or so. Before we do move on to our topic, though, I do want to bring up the fact that earlier this week, the Godzilla community um, lost an important person who was involved in the Heisei era. Although this is a Showa era show, I feel like it's still would be good to bring up. Is Kazuki Omori, the director of 1989's Godzilla vs. Biollante and 1991's Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, and he also contributed to the writing and probably some other production stuff for the later Heisei movies. For example, Godzilla vs. Destroyer. So he really helped flesh out the Heisei area to be what it is, to give it the unified feeling it does have that the other eras arguably don't have as much. And I always knew I'd be saddened by whenever he passed, but just because this whole week's been kind of a dump, so that news was sort of just the cherry on top, and it really hit me when it did. And there he is right now. So I just wanted to take a moment of silence to remember him. And thank you for pulling that up, by the way. I was supposed
no
to
problem.
watch already, but like I said, I'm sick and it's just been wrecking me all week. I'm
no problem.
doing a lot better now, so
That's good.
which I'm glad for. I was worried I'd have to cancel on you guys, even though I'm the one who proposed this topic. Can you imagine? Like I made you guys think about these questions all month, and then I'm not even here for it. But I'm here, so let's get
Gonzalo.
started.
Gonzalo, what's up?
Oh, hey. All right. So let's start off with our first question. And we're going to start off cold.
Oof.
Which soundtrack from the 50s or 60s is your favorite? Which Godzilla soundtrack? I guess we'll start in same way we introduced ourselves. So, do you have an answer ready, Adrian?
Yeah, I got one ready.
Right.
So I guess to piggyback off this question, are we gonna say our favorite soundtrack from the 50s and the 60s, or both of them combined right now?
Oh, I guess you could do either. I wasn't too specific about that.
I mean, it's pretty
I
I
simple.
mean, the
Just go
50s, you got two. You
Yeah.
got two options.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
you could probably lump them together if you wanted, or you could
Yeah.
say two answers. So
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I'll put them together.
Okay.
So for me, my favorite soundtrack is definitely gonna be Martha versus Godzilla. there's so many tracks on that soundtrack that was just so special and staples the Godzilla as we know it from there. It's absolutely wonderful. The Martha song, Godzilla's official theme song. Even though we know from King Kong versus Godzilla we got a sample of it, but Martha vs. Godzilla really hit it home and really made that sound that we know as, oh, that's Godzilla's soundtrack.
Mhm.
So I'm definitely going to say Martha vs. Godzilla for that answer. Eric?
That's a great answer.
Yep.
What about you,
Dude,
Ray?
oh man, that's crazy. So just a little backstory. I grinded listening to these soundtracks from the 50s and 60s today because it's been crazy for me too, and I've had kids sick and everything, so it's been a crazy
I'm sorry to hear that.
little bit and everything. So yeah, I kind of grinded everything today, kind of picking out soundtracks and stuff that I thought were important. And then just listening to some that I've never even listened to yet. I mean, I've watched the movies obviously plenty of times, but when I watch the movies, I don't always necessarily focus on the music at all times. And maybe that's just because I've seen it so many times. I know the sound, and it just automatically just kind of goes off my head. So I don't think about it all the time. But just like listening to this stuff and not watching anything, really put me in a different perspective on a lot of these films, especially the music wise. And so like I said, I went through all of them. I really did. And surprisingly, I came out, I'm going to do my favorite of the 50s and 60s together.
Okay.
And I picked Godzilla 1964, Mothra versus Godzilla. I really did. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, it was super strong. And like Adrian said, like, I think one of my favorites is the main title, Godzilla's theme. Like that was super strong, super powerful and everything. And I absolutely just loved it. That might be my favorite version of his theme, I think, in that film. And I was kind of blown away by just how many songs on there that I just absolutely loved. I really did. And yeah, I kind of just had a nitpick, and kind of go through them and process elimination. And yeah, I came up with Mothra vs. Godzilla. So
we'll mention it more later, but I'm really glad you brought that up, specifically his name. How about you, Thomas?
Yeah, you know what? You guys stole a lot of my thunder because I also kind of.
Oh dang!
I also went. I didn't crash and listen to all the songs today, but I spread it out during the week. I took my time, but I did listen to that 64 track, and I gotta agree with you guys. That particular track is just outstanding. And for me, the movie is kind of emotional, and I thought a lot of the themes just went really well. And I love the Godzilla theme. They played it throughout, slight variations throughout, but kind of blend together. So sometimes you're not sure which one is which, and they also reuse a lot. So it's all mixed together. But that one definitely is my favorite track, soundtrack out of all of them. And also, when I hear the music, as Eric said, you can just visualize or imagine that particular scene. So it makes it even more impactful. So that's the one for me, easily.
Nice.
Right. There's no shame in having the same answer as everyone. It's a good soundtrack. Yeah. How about you, Michael?
What do you think my answer is going to be?
No way!
I know what Michael's
I
answer
wanted
is
you
gonna
to
be.
say it.
Michael's special.
What do you think my answer is going to be? Okay, all right. To be fair, my favorite soundtrack of the '60s is one when I hear it, I automatically think of this film. I can even specific tracks. Like I can picture like specific scenes happening in this movie, and it fits this film so well. So my favorite soundtrack for the 1960s is Son of Godzilla.
Oh.
Because it is incredibly unique. Because it's got Godzilla's theme. I mean, we've got Godzilla's theme, but man, I could listen to the Son of Godzilla soundtrack all day, every day, because it's just such a fun soundtrack.
You know what? I'm gonna agree with you because I wanted
liar.
I'm not a liar.
I'm gonna agree that
I am
it's a
not a
super
liar.
soundtrack.
I am not a liar. I promise. I'm not trolling. I promise I'm not trolling.
I'm gonna agree that's a super fun soundtrack because I actually was gonna mention how it it was really hard for me. I think I'm gonna have to separate 50s and 60s. 50s
Mm.
for sure has to be the original soundtrack,
Oh,
1954.
obviously.
I think it's probably the one that has the most impact on me. Yeah, at least in the show era.
Yeah.
A really close second is 64 Mothra, 64A Mothra versus Godzilla. For the reasons you guys have already stated. But I did want to mention too, like what Michael said. I was really surprised at the soundtracks that weren't composed by Akira Ifukube. What's his name? Let's see here. I have it
Sato.
listed here.
It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, Sato.
Sato,
Sato.
yeah.
Yeah.
Monster
Sato
Sato.
brought a totally opposite sound to the Godzilla movies that you wouldn't really expect anyone to bring or to even think of bringing to the movies. But for their movies, I think they kind of worked in a weird way. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
And the track called "Snow Falls on the Tropical Island," that's just such an emotional track. That's
Yeah,
the one
it
that
is.
plays at the end of the movie when
Mhm.
when Godzilla's holding his son.
The embrace.
Mhm.
The embrace, like it's such an emotional track. It's beautifully composed, and I'm being deadly serious. Like I could listen to this soundtrack all the time. Like it is such a fun
Wow.
soundtrack.
Wow.
Mhm.
All right. So on to question 2. What's your favorite individual theme? And if you can answer this, is it also from your favorite soundtrack that you just
Mhm.
picked?
Yeah.
To be honest, both of them are because it's honestly it's a tie between again Godzilla's theme and Mothra vs. Godzilla and Scared Springs because Scared Springs is just such a beautiful score. Every
Mhm.
time I hear it, I have no shame. I sing it. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to y'all.
Thank you.
I love hearing Scared Springs. Every time I hear it, it takes me to this out of this workplace. I love that theme. Again, like I said earlier, Godzilla's theme is just the staple of what Godzilla's theme that we know and love now. But Scared Springs though. Both of those are just right up there and probably tied with each other. I can't choose between those two because both of those scores are just perfect.
I don't fault you at all. Those are some of my favorite melodies ever. Even the the Heisei renditions
Yes.
to me are really nice as well. How about you, Eric?
I know it's a lame answer, but I have to go with the Godzilla theme from Mothra vs. Godzilla, like I just stated.
Yeah.
I like I said, I revisited the stuff today, and it's pretty vivid in my brain, and I can't express how much I absolutely love his theme. Like it means a lot, especially for us as Godzilla fans and all that stuff. Like it's part of him. Like it really is. Like it's another definition of this character. Like that theme goes with him so well, and it's like you know the theme and you know who it represents, and it ties so well together. And like I said, just hearing that today, it blew me away. It really did, because I don't listen to just the music all the time. Obviously, I got this. Like I was saying before, even before I got this, I didn't listen to a lot of this stuff, and I've only listened to maybe 4 of these records now. So
Big fan.
No, it's
Okay.
just an aspect that I've never like really focused on until now.
yeah.
Honestly, like it was just one of those things that was just automatically into the movies that I was just already in love with. But it's just actually just taking it a level more that I can actually like dissect these tracks and stuff like that and really fall in love to them individually.
I have to ask. Okay, so it's safe to say a lot of us, or Godzilla's theme is going to come up a lot in this conversation.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Eric, starting with you, do you prefer Godzilla's villain theme, or do you prefer his hero theme?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
I will say villain, because right after the Mothra versus Godzilla theme, I think my second is 54. Like that theme is just, whoo! Like I said before, like I didn't go into these ever studying them, really listening to them and everything. But like I said, I did it today, and actually the 54 soundtrack blew me away. Like
It's amazing, right?
way more than
Yeah,
I
it's
ever
amazing.
thought, because I mean, I'll say it, like it's one of the movies that I don't watch a lot. It really isn't.
Yeah.
But every so often I will watch it, but it's just listening to that soundtrack, I was blown away. I really was. It was incredible. So yeah, I will go with those two.
Dude, that it doesn't surprise me at all that you said that or you ranked them that way, just because the reason I like the 54 soundtrack so much is because it has this certain gravity to it, the sounds and
yeah.
Oh
everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like
definitely.
the weight of it is just
It-
so like it's weighing on your soul as you
Yep.
listen to it. It's like it's
Yeah,
not
dude.
just music. It's like spirit energy or something. Just
Yeah.
Yeah.
just pressing on your heart.
Mhm.
And the reason I like the 64 soundtrack so much is because, at least with the rendition of his theme in that movie, it has a really similar, like, just
Mhm.
the whole,
Yeah.
like, the gargantuan effect of it really gets to you that way, I think.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
I was actually going to say that too, make that comparison. So I'm really glad you did that. How about you, Thomas? Do you have an individual, like a favorite individual track from any of the Showa
Uh,
movies or the 50s and 60s?
I mean, I have to just say right off the top. I mean, I really dig the Godzilla marches. I mean, that's how we recognize Godzilla. You know, how we think of Godzilla when that theme comes on. It's just automatic for me. I think about that all the time, and I play it
Mhm.
like every other day. I'm playing Godzilla music. So, but when I listen to the Mazda versus Godzilla soundtrack, and I came across this particular track, that's the Mothra song. That it's I think the only time that the twins, or the what is it, Shojibin,
The
Yeah.
how do you say it?
Sobijin.
Yeah,
Shobijin.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the twins, I believe that's the only time that they sang in a cappella, and I played it pretty loud, and it just made me like I was kind of like getting the chills, and I was like, this is intense. And I listened to the whole thing, and that one really moved me. So that one kind of is up there for me. That particular one, you got to go back and hear it if you didn't hear that. But it's just one. It's just the only time they just sing a cappella without the orchestra. So
Mhm.
it was pretty good. Just one other notable other track is something. It's from the King Kong versus Godzilla, when they had Godzilla, coming on land or battling. It's got that similar theme. It's a little bit different from the one from Mothra, but it's still
Mhm.
the core song. The melody is there.
Yep.
But
Love that song.
I mean, I'm gonna say it's the Mothra song for me.
And hey, I agree
Just
with you,
by a touch.
because yeah, like I said, like just listening to this soundtrack, like even that track is super powerful. Like it really is. I think I have to say that's my favorite Peanuts rendition of the Mothra song, realistically, because I was like, holy crap, I was like, this is actually really good and really powerful. So yeah, I
Yeah.
completely agree with you.
And I remember that from my youth. That Mothra song. And then after hearing it again, decades later, you just appreciate it more, because we're
Yeah.
adults, and we
Yeah.
listen to it
Yeah.
really carefully. So back then, it was just kind of fun, but now it's
Mhm.
so okay, so that's the one for me.
Nice.
I will obviously choose Godzilla's theme, but I'm also gonna choose another monsters theme that hasn't been talked about, and that's Ghidorah's theme.
Ghidorah.
Because
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those things nasty.
the Ghidorah's theme, with all those high horns and all
Mhm.
and all that brass going on at the same time, and like the cymbals and things, that
Yes.
the Ghidorah
Yes.
theme sounds really, really iconic.
It does.
And that's why I love it. Also, Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster has like one of my favorite versions. It's not, I wouldn't necessarily say it's the Mothra song, but it's one of the songs from the Peanuts that I remember the most. And it's in that scene where they're on stage and they're singing to Mothra.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they take us along that journey, and they do
Yeah.
kind of like
Yep.
if you watch the dub version of that film, like a lot of us probably did growing up, you have the voiceover kind of
Yes.
reciting. It sounds a lot like poetry. And
Yep.
that's like when I think of Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, I think of the Ghidorah theme, and I think of that scene with the Peanuts, which is always really beautiful to me.
And actually, when you talk about the dub version, like anytime I watch that movie, and if it's the Japanese, I think it's weird when I don't hear that voice come
Yeah,
over
it
and
is
start
weird.
talking
Oh, yeah.
about it, because I'm like, where is it? Where I don't hear that woman's voice. Like this is weird to me, kind of thing. Because I've seen it so much with the dub version, I'm just not used to it. In the Japanese, so
yeah.
yeah, it's super weird when I don't hear it.
That's one of those kinds of experiences that really only Godzilla fans have, where you'll get such a different experience whether you watch the American cut or the Japanese cut.
Yeah.
I've said before that I kind of prefer the Japanese cut of King Kong versus Godzilla, which apparently is not a popular opinion, but I think the reason, yeah, but I think the reason I do is because of what you just said. It made me realize is whenever I watch the American cut, as much as entertaining as it is, it makes me miss hearing Ifukube's soundtrack.
Yes.
And a lot of people still prefer the American cut soundtrack, and I don't blame you, but just because I'm so used to it, it's like when I hear those things are different, and it's the opposite way for you guys if you don't hear certain sound effects that they added in the American cut. That said,
I mean,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
As I say, if you want the best of both worlds, just watch Creature from the Black Lagoon and the Japanese cut of King Kong versus Godzilla back to back. There you go. Because it's the same. It's the same damn music.
Hey, it's good music though. It's good music.
Right.
That said, though,
I prefer the Japanese cut of King Kong versus Godzilla just because of the music. I like the dialogue in King Kong versus Godzilla. Like, I'm sick of Godzilla. Like,
Mr. Taco.
Yes.
Mr. We should have had you on the show I hosted because I was the only one who said that. But anyway,
Marcellus, what's up, man?
Marcellus.
Hey, Marcellus.
Marcellus Winters, the most
but even though I say
man
that
collecting.
though, King Kong vs. Godzilla doesn't have my favorite soundtrack, but I do want to give a shout out to the battle theme of it. I think it's literally called King Kong vs. Godzilla on the Japanese cut. Yeah. It's the first time. A lot of people don't know that, but it's the first time that specific melody was used, and then later reused in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah for the opening motif and when the UFO comes in. But anyway, but my actual favorite individual soundtrack is I think I mentioned this before. Is from the 1954 film Godzilla Comes Ashore. That song, where it's one of the few times that theme is played, and it's all basically just piano, and it's a really, I don't know what they did to the piano. It might just be like the recording equipment they had, or I'm not sure what was going on with it, but it felt like a human wasn't playing that thing. It's like it was possessed, and the music just had to come out of it. That's the kind of feeling I get from it. Like, you can't stop this from happening. It's gonna happen no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's just the dread you get from that score is amazing. It's probably the one track from the Showa era I've played the most, whether it's 50s, 60s, or 70s.
Yeah.
I love the dark part
Hey,
of
Aaron, I got a question. As far as that Mothra song, the acapella, is that the one that they sang to Mothra for the last time that they called her for help? I think so, right? That's the one that they sang acapella.
I think you're right.
I think it just sounded kind of like somber, like they were saying goodbye to their guardian, and that will not return because they know that she's very weak already. So that's also. I think that's what.
Sorry, no, yeah. So no, thank you for bringing that up because I forgot. I wanted to mention it earlier when you were talking about it.
Yeah, I forgot.
The acapella version of that hits me in kind of the same way as the piano rendition of Godzilla Comes Ashore.
Yeah.
Just because they have nothing but their voices to carry that track, so they have to do it really well, and they really knocked it out of the park because as much as I love the Heisei version of all of Mothra and the Cosmos themes and everything, the Shobijin versions of those songs have always kind of hit a little different to me because they have a certain spirituality to them that any other version of the songs have either lacked or it's not that they couldn't do it. I don't know what's going like because they're not bad.
No,
But
they're not bad at all.
yeah, not at all. It's just that these early versions of the songs, there's something about them that
Yeah.
like I think it's just the rawness. They somehow they knew what they had
Yeah.
and they were just doing it with all the passion that
Hmm.
that they could with.
Mhm.
And that acapella, the whole arrangement, that's not something they've done since then. And is that right? I don't think so.
I don't think
Um,
so.
I
don't
think
think
there
so.
is from the Hasty era where the voices are isolated, but it's not exactly the same thing. It's just the
Yeah.
instrumentals
Yeah.
are missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But other than that,
Yeah, I did listen to it earlier today, and I thought it was
okay,
I thought it was good too.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
different. It's just different.
Yeah, I love that. Most people will pick the action themes or the marches, but I'm really glad you mentioned
Hmm.
that because it's such an important part of if Godzilla comes ashore, that whole thing is really important to Godzilla's character. Then the Shobijin and the acapella is really important to Mothra as well.
Yeah.
All right, so question number 3: do you prefer the more serious scores or the fun ones, and why? Should we go in the same order or should we switch it up?
We can switch it up. I don't mind.
All right.
Whatever.
So what do you think, Michael?
Haha.
Serious, because it's iconic. Because we
Yep.
get a lot of serious
Yep.
because we get a lot of those iconic themes. Like some of my
Yeah.
favorite movies feature very serious thematics, or sorry, very serious soundtracks. As much as I love the lighthearted stuff, like from Sea Monster and All Monsters Attack
Mhm.
and Son of Godzilla, like the mood that these soundtracks set, in a lot, like the mood that a lot of these soundtracks set is just phenomenal, and that's what I think of when I think of Godzilla. Is the more serious stuff, and I've grown to appreciate, like Eric and Aaron, I've grown to appreciate the soundtrack for 54 more the more I listen to it, because a lot of the 54 soundtrack is just noise, and it's just unsettling noise, and it's really it's a really interesting soundtrack.
Yeah.
So I do prefer the serious stuff over the whimsical stuff.
Yeah.
So that's something I was gonna bring up. Like you guys keep taking my answers, but the fact that the 54 soundtrack is just like a lot of it's just noise is a major part of why I love it so much because
Mhm.
like think about it, the first thing we ever hear in the Godzilla franchise is technically just the noise. I mean, it's Godzilla, it's his footsteps, it's his roar,
Yep.
but those things were rather than like the modern method of creating animal noises from other animals or
Mhm.
more organic methods. With Godzilla specifically, Ifukube wanted to use musical instruments, and in a way, I think that's a really good way to represent who Godzilla is, just because you just like with Godzilla, you take something from the natural world that's supposed to be beautiful, in this
Mhm.
case an instrument, and you twist it to become something totally unrecognizable.
Hmm.
And those noises just stay with you because they have such a unique sound signature. Like the footsteps, it's not like a real footstep, but you can't really tell what is making that noise. Same thing with his roar.
Mhm.
And the screech of his roar, the original roar, it's the fact that it's supposed like the thing making that noise is supposed to be something that makes music too. That's always been, I don't know what it is. It's like it's not a thing that scarred me, but it's always stayed with me in a sort of, I don't know what word to use.
It's
just
terrifying, honestly.
yeah.
Like like I said, like I listened to it today, and like just hearing the footsteps, and all of a sudden you hear a screeching roar. It's like, dang! I was like, that's kind of ominous, a little bit there, And then finally, like halfway
Right.
through, his theme finally kicks in and stuff, and it's pretty powerful.
Yeah. How about you, Thomas? What do you think? Do you like
Well,
serious scores or fun ones?
yeah, I think I'm going to agree. I mean, I think I mean, if I had to choose one, it would be the more serious tones, because as Michael said, a lot of the themes that we're fans of, that we really appreciate, are all built on those serious tones. I do like I do like the fun ones too, especially 67. Son of Godzilla. I mean, that's a different story. I'll save it for a different answer, for a different section. Yeah, but as far as the 54 roars, I remember as a kid. I mean, I used to listen to it. I think I taped it or something. I played it on a tape recorder, and I used to listen to each individual roar, and I used to go, "Where did it come from? What each one were a little different." I said, "Which one?"
Yeah.
I would always go, "Which one is my
True.
favorite?" I mean, there was always one that had the classic roar, and then there was one that just sounded really gnarly. You know what I'm talking about? It sounded like a horn or something.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
"Dang, that was weird."
Mhm.
So it was interesting how they made that sound. I didn't know at the time that it was instruments. I just thought it was just some ghastly monster sound that was
Yeah.
appropriate for such a hideous beast, monstrous Godzilla that we saw in '54. So
Yeah,
yes,
exactly. Because
yeah,
the roar. Sorry, just really quick. The roar you hear in the beginning, it does sound less clashy than. There's a track later on in the soundtrack. I forgot what it's called, but it's just where you. I think it plays when they're all running from Godzilla on Odo Island, and all you hear
yeah,
is his roaring, his sound, and his
yeah.
footsteps.
Isn't it
And
toward the
then
end they had a track that just had steps and just
yeah,
roars?
Yep.
It was like just
hmm
like three of them. I mean, it was a little bit different from the beginning, though, right? A little bit different.
yeah, those
Yeah,
roars
it
are a
was.
little more clashy and more
Yeah.
like he's trying
So I
to.
was like,
He's
wow,
actively
bonus
hunting
sounds.
something. So
I mean,
yeah.
I haven't heard the whole soundtrack through for a long time. So I was like, hey, these are interesting, especially all those sounds that Michael was talking about, all those background noises and people and stuff. I was like, wow, they added all that stuff. So it just added to how kind of interesting how the 54 track was compared to the other ones, because they made it sound like it was like a big scary thing. So
And now we're seeing, especially, it was really prominent with Singular Point, where now when you see like Godzilla, and I think it even showed up. I think they did this even with the G versus G short, where they're now merging the different roars together. So like
Yeah.
hmm
in the Showa area, like specifically like thinking of like Destroy All Monsters, like the 1968 through the 70s Godzilla roar, it's very distinctive.
Yeah.
And now when you see like now they're trying to like merge those roars together, it sounds like. So Singular Point did this. I think I noticed a little bit of it, like bringing in more of that 54, that guttural, just like that guttural noise, which is really unsettling. I like it.
I thought they did that in Shin too.
No, of course they did it in Shin.
They did. Yeah, they
but
did it in
they,
Shin.
they definitely
Yeah.
did that in Shin. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
They
I
also
think
played
this.
around with it
Yeah.
in 2019. Sorry, I just wanted to mention.
Yeah, I thought for Shin they actually reused the 54 roar.
They did.
For
They
the-
reused the
for the-
54
Oh, yeah,
and
for
the most
the
part,
84. Yeah.
His early form, yeah, they did.
Yeah,
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. But to your point, Aaron, because if you listen to, they made a brand new roar for Legendary, but if you listen, sometimes you can hear those classic Showa roars.
Yep.
hmm Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the first appearance in Antarctica with Ghidorah. You can hear the
Oh yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
can
yeah,
hear
yeah.
the 50. You can hear the
definitely.
54 show up a little bit.
Yeah, it's one of the most distinct moments where that happens. I think it's when he's falling into the ground at some point, and then you hear
Yep.
the 54 roar as he goes down.
so you
I
can
always thought that was super neat.
kind of consider that kind of like a little Easter egg if you're listening. Like,
Yeah.
ooh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm All right, has everyone answered number 3, or are we still going?
No,
through?
me and
No.
Adrian. haven't
Yeah,
done
me
that.
Oh,
and
okay.
Actually,
Sorry
yeah.
about that.
Yeah, I'll go next. So yeah, I'm gonna echo what these guys say. I'm drawn towards the seriousness and the serious scores. I just think I feel more emotion with the serious scores. It just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of breaks me down. It really does. Like I just feels like, Aaron, like you said, like this weight, when you're hearing this stuff and everything, and it just you feel different about it.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. It really is. You just have to feel it. And then it just hits differently the scenes, with the right music, it just, one scene that you think is just a normal scene, and then the music pops in, and you're like, holy crap! Like that just meant so much more, good or bad, and it's just it's crazy. It just I don't know. It attacks my heartstrings. It really does because
I
some
know
of them
what you mean,
just hit hard, and some of them are like, oh yeah, it's goofy funny, but this summer they just tear you and they just stab you. It's just oh my gosh. But yeah, I absolutely love the serious stuff. I like don't get me wrong, I like the goofiness and stuff like that, but like I'm more drawn towards the seriousness. Adrian?
And yeah, I'm gonna echo exactly what y'all said. I'm definitely more serious, especially since I like the serious Godzilla's more. Anyways, the serious tracks, like you said, Eric, it just hits differently. It really brings emotions out of you that you really didn't know was there until that track comes on. I was like, oh Jesus! Especially and the track I'll pull out for this specifically is when the choir is singing in 54. That alone just brings. Oh God!
It's amazing.
It is amazing. It's absolutely amazing, and you just feel the weight of Japan in that song specifically. So if I really do have to choose between serious and whimsical. Whimsical definitely has its place, but I'm definitely prefer the serious stuff more than anything else.
Yeah, I agree with all of you guys. The serious scores are way more meaningful to me. The more whimsical scores, like of 66, 67, they, when I was listening to those, I was, because I always kind of liked them watching the movies, but listening to just the scores, I was surprised at how fun they were hearing them. And I was actually jamming out to some of them, like the drum beats, like the Son of Godzilla. So they were super fun. And back in high school, I used to play drums. So the heavy, I don't know if it's jazz or like big band or whatever it is, whatever genre it is, like just the big, fun, upbeat ride cymbal and the bass and everything was just super fun to listen to. But the serious scores are always going to be what makes Godzilla to me.
Definitely.
And I think we've already all said so many, all the different ways why that is. It's just it makes Godzilla what it is. It's the first thing you ever hear in the franchise. Musical, even though you don't realize it's musical instruments making the sounds of Godzilla and his theme song. Back then it wasn't his theme song. I think it was just the military march, but now it's known as his theme. And because it's one of the first things you ever witness in the franchise. Well, a lot of people don't watch 54 as their first movie, but chronologically speaking, because it's that first thing. The fact that they had the thoughtfulness to know that music and sound is so important to making something good. It's, to me, it doesn't get as much mention as the special effects with Tsuburaya or the direction with Honda.
For sure.
But it like just the whole sound direction and the music definitely deserves to be put on the same level, I think.
I completely agree. Like I just said it earlier, like I did not focus on the music at all until now, and it's just like it means so much more now just listening to this stuff, because you think of the special effects and the acting or the suit acting or just whatever, or just the action in general, and you don't always hear or talk about the soundtracks and what they mean to you or what it means to a particular scene. So yeah, it's a definitely eye opener for me.
And speaking to that, just imagine if like Godzilla just had a generic roar. I mean, that's one of the biggest complaints about the American cut, how it switches his roar out for Anguirus's for some reason. And keeping in kaiju, but speaking about a different one with Gamera, that's one of the biggest complaints about Gamera the Brave. The fact that he doesn't have his roar, it's just it's so crazy that people have made edits to put in his roar. That's how passionate people are about the sound in it, whether or not they are consciously aware of that.
Well, the sound, the roar is as much a part of the roar is as much as of importance as the creature itself.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Absolutely.
As if Godzilla was this imposing creature, but he had a generic roar, then I don't know if we would. I don't know if we would like it as much. We would now, obviously, if we didn't know any better, and that's just the way it was, then that's just the way it was. That's just the way it is. But yeah, I mean, I think if Godzilla just had some generic manufactured roar from a random monster movie, I just don't know if I just don't know if it would have lasted as long, if it would have been as iconic.
I mean, another example, just quick, for the Gamera roar is actually, I just watched Godzilla versus King Ghidorah 91, and actually Godzillasaurus has Gamera's roar. And I was like, what is this? I was like, I haven't seen that movie in forever. And I was like, holy crap, he's got Gamera's roar. I was like, what is this?
Maybe, I mean, maybe that's what made them make some Gamera films after that. They got fired up.
Oh, right. Yeah, that whole scene is ridiculous. Sorry, just to go. Like the whole, especially if you watch the American cut, but it has some of the most quotable lines, like the whole Spielberg thing or the freaking
take that, you dinosaur.
Yes, that's it.
Or like
you were there, Michael.
Oh man, but anyway, yeah.
Boys.
All the Americans are my.
It's great.
It's fun though.
Oh, it's a fun scene for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely fun.
All right. So moving on to question 4. Which soundtrack do you think best fits its film? And we can go clockwise again. So what do you think, Michael?
Oh, that's tough because we've talked so much about 54.
I know.
You know what? I'm gonna go a little off script and just pull one from the pile here because it was between this 54 and a couple of others, and I may even throw in an honorable mention just because this is a really hard question. Yeah. But I'm gonna go with Terror of Mechagodzilla.
That's a 70s film, not a 60s.
Oh, 60s. Sorry.
Oh
yeah, like that would be my number one for everything.
Wait, hang on.
Stay for next show.
Yeah, that's 60s plus 10.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 60s plus 10. Never mind. Sorry about that. We'll go.
No, that was cool though.
Yeah, that's a good soundtrack though.
Never mind.
Oh, yeah.
Never
Sato
mind.
composed that one too, right? 74.
I believe so. Yes.
We're thinking on the fly here. We're thinking on the fly.
Yeah.
We're winging it. It's fine.
We're winging it now, guys.
Okay.
We're winging it now. Okay. So my real answer is going to be Sea Monster.
Oh.
Sea Monster.
Okay.
That's a legitimate answer. It's not just because I needed an answer, but it's a legitimate answer.
And why is that? That's really interesting.
Because I do like the lighter stuff. I appreciate the darker stuff, of course, but I like the lighter stuff. And then, like, if you listen to this, I was listening to the Sea Monster track, or I was listening to the Sea Monster soundtrack earlier today, and I'm trying to find the track here. What is this? It's Godzilla versus the Fighter Squadron. That really upbeat, kind of like jazzy. That jazzy. It's just so random. It's just so random within this soundtrack, and I love it because this is a really quirky movie. This is when Godzilla stopped attacking Tokyo and he was on an island somewhere. So the tonal change and the tonal shift is obvious there.
Yep.
But I think that the soundtrack fits perfectly with the tone of that movie. It's a little lighthearted. It's got some really nice, like, tropical sounding tracks in it as well. And it's got that really, I don't know how to describe it outside of just, it's during the battles between Ebra and Godzilla. And it's just like, it's that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what instrument is making that noise, but I always thought it sounded really cool. So I'm going to go with 66. I'm going to go with 66.
Nice.
Not to put you on the
Nice.
spot, but that makes me want to ask. With you saying that, do you think soundtracks like it would have a place in a modern Godzilla movie?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think soundtracks like Sea Monster could work. Obviously, it would just
I don't
real.
know.
It would really depend.
Depend on the film.
Right. Yeah.
It would depend on the film. So that's a
Yeah.
total cop out, but it would just depend on the film.
No, I agree.
Um,
Like, because you can't just put a jazz soundtrack over like 20
Yeah,
films.
no.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I actually would love to see this kind of soundtrack make a comeback.
Yeah.
Obviously they couldn't just put it on any movie, but
Nah, I hope
for them to
not.
make it work, like you said, the setting changed, so the music change is a good thing, and not as jarring as if he was attacking Tokyo or whatever.
Mhm.
And maybe if they, if this new movie, if they do start exploring the Hollow Earth, maybe they could throw some weirder stuff in there
Yeah,
just
they
because
could.
it's kind of more
Yeah, I'd like that.
tropical
Yeah.
and everything, maybe. But yeah, it all depends.
Yeah, that's true.
So
All right. So, oh, sorry, you were already starting.
yeah, no, I was gonna say, I mean, like in the future, yeah, I mean, Aaron was saying if they could add some of these more fun themes to a future film, I think so. It's just maybe not as a whole movie, maybe a little snippet. And Eric hit it right on the nose. If they visit Hollow Earth and the tropical scenery stuff, that might be a good opportunity. But as far as the best soundtrack that fits its film, I mean, there's more than a few for me, but I guess I'm on a Malta versus Godzilla thing. So
Hey, that's all right.
because I mean, when I listened to the soundtrack, I was watching some clips, and they had the soundtrack playing with the clips with the song, so I can kind of move bit by bit, and I could see how accurately the music was to the particular scenes. So I thought it was just much more impactful, and also the film had Godzilla as, I guess, kind of like the villain, and he's fighting the humans. He's fighting the humans. He's fighting Mothra. It's kind of sad how Mothra is getting beat up and stuff, and obviously, we know what happens to Mothra, and with her last energy, she flies over to her egg and all that. And they have that music, and it's just so impactful. So I thought, from the start to the end, I thought the soundtrack was really, really great. So that's the one that sticks to me a lot. And of course, with the twins singing, I think that's just like icing on the cake. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so that's the one for me. But that's not to slight any of the other tracks, the other soundtracks. But that's the one that kind of seems to register to me a little bit more.
Mhm.
Thomas just thinks all the other soundtracks are garbage.
No, hey, all the asses are the same. It's just Mothra. I didn't do any research. I just did one soundtrack.
Right.
You guys figured out my.
Yeah,
I was done in 1 hour. No, I got more. I got some other stuff to say later. So, yeah.
All right.
Well, I'm gonna. So I agree with you, Michael. Like there was a couple. I was really close to grabbing the Sea Monster. That is one of my favorites, actually. But I have to go with the one that kind of hit me the most with listening to him today, and that has to be 54. Like I keep saying, I did not expect it to do as much to me as I thought it would, and it really hit home. Like it blew my mind. It really did. It fits it so well because it's so brooding and serious that it just fits this movie because of what kind of movie it is. Obviously it's an introduction to this giant monster and everything like that, and it just kind of fits. And then, like I said before, the emotions that it kind of brings up, with like the heartbreak and sadness and loneliness and triumph and compassion, for these people and what they went through. And it just shows that, it showed that the Japanese really wanted to send a message to how they felt, with the atomic bombs and everything like that. Like they really wanted to put, use music as their message to express, how they felt and what it was like for them. And it was crazy. Like I said, it hit me way different than I ever thought it would. And of course, obviously at the time we didn't know it was his theme, but of course we got this hear Godzilla's theme for the first time, so that's a big thing for me. But just how serious and dark it was, it really just fit that movie to a T. And I know it's a cop out answer, but like I said, it's I did not expect to like it as much as I did, because like I said, I don't watch 54 all the time. It's the one movie that I watch probably the least out of everything. And I know it's bad to say and everything, but it's true. I'm being honest. But really this soundtrack was crazy good.
That's really interesting, because when you start separating the music from the movie, then it really gets interesting, because I'm like you, Eric. I don't watch 54 all that often. Like I respect 54, but I'm not even going to recommend a new person to all this watch it until much later, because it's just a different tone from everything else that we have. But separating the soundtrack of 54 from the actual movie of 54, I think makes you appreciate the movie even more, which sounds weird because which sounds really weird, because you would think that like having them both playing together would make you respect the movie. But when you're able to just listen to the soundtrack, like I'm hearing you say, and you're able to kind of even play that movie in your mind without the dialogue, without the vision, without the visuals, but you're able to kind of paint your own picture, I think you're able to respect that movie much more.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like after just listening to the soundtracks, like I said, I have way more respect for this film. I'll probably watch it a lot more often than I ever have, just because of listening to the soundtrack. It's incredible. Adrian?
I actually have to agree with Michael with Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, because
somebody finally agrees with me.
I did too. I just didn't go with it.
And I completely understand what you're saying, Eric, and what you're saying also, Thomas. But Godzilla vs. Sea Monster is something I can put in just to have fun. And that entire soundtrack is nothing but fun. Like Especially if I'm having a bad day. Like I can't watch a serious Godzilla movie if it's one of those days.
This makes it more depressing.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't want that.
How can I separate myself from the world? Oh, Godzilla versus the Sea Monster. Click. And and then even as listen to the soundtrack, it just puts you in a different mood. It's just such a fun and easy soundtrack to listen to. So I'm gonna have to say that soundtrack represents that movie in every way.
Nice.
I shoot, because you guys keep mentioning 54 and 66. And then there's Thomas with 64. All of these are such good soundtracks, but you probably already know what I'm going to say, because I've talked about it so much already in this video.
You're going to say
I gotta go.
Of course.
Oh yeah, those whimsical, the big drumming. I gotta go 54, just because what you guys said about separating the score from the movie. I didn't realize I do that a lot, where I'll just I'll be taking a break from work or something, so I'll just be like sitting, or I don't know, just resting, and then I decide to put on a Godzilla soundtrack for some reason. For some reason, I go to 54 a lot. Well, not for some reason. I already said it's one of my favorite soundtracks, but it's because of the atmosphere of it. Listening to it separately from the movie is a legitimate thing. That's why there's what are they called? The old radio shows and like radio dramas and all that, where it's just the sound. So listening to the soundtrack on its own, maybe you're closing your eyes and envisioning what's happening.
Oh yeah.
It does have the potential to give you its own experience separate from the movie, where you can kind of feel yourself experiencing the things that the characters do. And in that way, because it's just the music and the sounds, like the roars and the footsteps, there's not a very clear line between them since it's all instruments. That listening experience is something you don't get a lot in not just monster movie soundtracks, but just in soundtracks in general. I feel like the fact that it's just so it's like listening to ambience almost, but because natural sounds don't sound like that, you know something's wrong,
Right.
but in a weird, satisfying way. I don't know if I'm making any sense with that. It's just that's why I love it so much. It's just and that's why Godzilla's original roar it it encapsulates everything I love about Godzilla music is that it is an instrument making that sound. It's not a euphonious sound in the traditional sense, but it is a sound a lot of people love listening to.
It's not like the Hanna-Barbera Godzilla.
Like,
where
Daddy,
it's just
seriously,
like,
look how
Yeah.
jacked I am now. Like, look at me. Look at me. I'm jacked now.
Wow.
Yeah.
wow.
Look.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that went along
Finally.
really well with the the roar you were just doing.
I was like, what? I was thinking, what the heck is going on right now?
I was like,
Um,
Adrian's voice changed.
That's
Do
What
you need
is
a minute,
going on?
Adrian? Do you need a minute here to compose your son and yourself, and you'll come back?
we are talking about composers, so
He's
I
gone.
mean, we are not. We do not condone child murder on this podcast. But if you need to go take care of some business, go ahead.
off screen I can't say anything. So you do you.
Oh,
He's
God.
gone. What?
I do have an interesting question because this whole discussion about separating the film from
Yeah.
the movie is interesting to
Yeah.
me. So I'm curious, what is a soundtrack that you like, but you think that you don't like the movie? Like the
Oh,
movie
that's
is better
good.
than the soundtrack. The soundtrack is better than the movie itself. For me, it was Oblivion. I didn't care. Like it can be non-Godzilla. So I'm just saying.
Right.
For me, it was Oblivion. I think the soundtrack to Oblivion was really good because it was very ambient. It was a lot of ambiance. It was just a lot of atmospheric kind of music. I thought that was really good. I just didn't care for the movie.
I had actually never seen that movie, but shoot, I just
Who's-
lost my answer.
who's in that?
Does anyone
Is-
else have an
is it
answer?
Tom
Cruise?
Tom
Yeah,
Cruise,
that's
it's
Tom
from-
Cruise, right?
It's from
okay.
It's from a few years ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
saw it.
2014 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. I was gonna say something, but I just lost it. Does anyone else want to go?
I
No.
honestly don't even had an answer because
A soundtrack you like, but
yeah, I have
Yeah,
no
movie
that's-
you don't.
I mean,
I can't-
if I really had to choose one right now, I honestly it would suck, but like I'd go with the 54 because, like I said, this thing just it blew me out of the water because I love it way more than I do
The
the
actual
film
movie.
now. Yeah, I really
Yeah.
do.
And that's fair. I don't think anyone can fault you for that because the soundtrack to that movie is just an entirely different beast on its own.
Yeah,
so.
like I mean, one of the probably the most powerful ones that I heard on there. I know, Adrian. I know the prayer one was a big one for you, but to me, the saddest one, the like almost the most impactful one, was the very end when with the oxygen destroyer and Godzilla's dying under the water. Like
Mm.
No,
that.
I got that. I get you
That
on that.
music is super sad.
It is. It
Like
is.
super sad. And I couldn't believe, like I said, just how impactful it was when when I was just listening to that. I wasn't watching the movie or everything, but I could watch the film in my head while listening to this. But I was like, it kind of got me choked up a little bit because I was like, holy crap, like I know exactly what scene this is. I know exactly what's going on, but all I can see is in my head, and it's literally him dying, and it's crazy.
Yeah, that whole last scenario has always.
Yeah.
I don't want to say it. Maybe haunted is the right word. I just don't. I don't want to say it because I feel like it's overused, but it really is such a haunting scenario because you got a guy going down there using his life's work to. He
Yeah.
wanted to pursue science to make the world better. Instead, what he came up with was something that destroyed an
They would
animal
destroy
that
life.
didn't really want to
Yeah.
exist in the state it was in the
Yep.
first place. You have two just life forms being there underwater that don't want to be there, but they have to be in their capacity. and the fact that they're going down there, not even it's not like gung ho, but they're all getting ready to go solve the problem, and we expect like because throughout the whole rest of the movie we've seen Godzilla all aggressive, roaring, destroying, stomping on everything. Then we get to this scene, we expect the same thing for him to try and give one last effort to survive. Instead, what we see is Godzilla just resting, his back facing the camera, laying down in a really vulnerable state. He just wants to be left alone.
Yeah. I
And
was just
that's
gonna say that vulnerable man, like he was just there, just hanging, and then all of a sudden he starts dying, and you can see the agony in him, and he's literally crying out and everything, and it's just like you actually feel something for him, like you really do, like it completely changes your thought process on him as a monster, individual character, whatever. It just completely turns the switch and everything, and you're like, holy crap! Like I actually feel sorry for this monster that's actually dying.
Yeah, it's sad. Thank you for saying that. Because a few months back, I don't know why, I was watching the American cut with Steve Martin on a plane ride back home. I think I was getting ready for one of our other shows. I don't remember, but I was watching it, and unexpectedly, I don't know if it's because being on a plane just hits you differently, but throughout that movie, and especially at the end, I was just tearing up, trying not to cry, and just the emotion and the soundtrack. Because when you're on a plane, you got your noise canceling on and the sound just way up, so it hits you that much harder when it does play. And that moment was the moment that almost tipped me over. I didn't, because they were serving drinks at the time, and I didn't want to be like, but
you're so happy for a drink.
Yes, I would like orange juice. But...
Mr. Acuna, would you like a Coke? Yes, please. Sir, would you like a Coke? Sir, would you like a Coke?
Oh man, could you imagine? I'm just like crying, and then they see me watching something. I'm like, "What are you watching? That's so sad." I'm like, "Godzilla."
That's great.
No, but for real though, that I completely get it. That whole moment, the ending, the soundtrack.
Yeah,
it's why I pick it, even if it is a cop-out answer. So.
And honestly, I understand now. Like, I know you've said it a lot of times about that movie and loving that movie, but now I understand it a little bit more from your perspective, because just hearing that stuff, like, it's changed my perspective on the movie itself.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, not even I watch it all that often. I probably watch it, to be fair, more than the rest of us maybe, but
oh yeah, for sure.
It's still not one where I'll be like, hey, I want to have some fun tonight. What do I want to watch? Tokyo burning to death. So
yeah.
So no, so
I watch it when I'm already feeling sad. That's when I watch
it. Sad.
Oh yeah.
When I'm already feeling
yourself
sad,
up.
Right. I'm already feeling sad. I'm just like, okay, let's just send me over the edge. I'm gonna watch 54 now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's also not sad for Godzilla too. It's also sad for the people. I mean, it's you have Serizawa's telling them have a good life. I mean, that's terrible. I mean, that's sad. I was like, oh my god, that's so sad. And then Godzilla coming up dying. I was like, I just couldn't handle it when I was younger. It was so disturbing.
I totally get it.
It was too sad. So I was so happy when I saw him again later on. I was like, yes, he's back.
Well, even on one of the tracks on that, when I was listening to it today, I swear they brought like a crying baby into the studio just to hear it crying for its mother. And I think it was a track where
probably when they was in the hospital, I think.
Yeah, the hospital.
Probably after the attack on Tokyo and everything's been ruined and everything is just terrible. Like all you can hear is a baby just crying for its mom, and like that pulls at the heartstrings. If you're a parent, you're like, holy crap! Like that's that's strong.
Yep.
And that's the thing too. I feel like you rarely ever see an aftermath scene like that in later Godzilla movies, and it makes me think too of when the attack was occurring. You have the mom and her kid. She's saying something like, "We're gonna go see Daddy.
We'll see Daddy soon."
Oh, yeah. Oh my goodness, that was just. Oh shoot! Well, if we keep talking about all of this, I'm gonna.
I know we're all gonna start crying here.
All right, so let's move on to a fun question. It's sort of the opposite of what Michael
Yeah.
was asking earlier. Question 5: which soundtrack do you think is the worst?
That's
I'll go
easy.
first. It's fine. I'll go first.
I was gonna go the other way, but
Easy one.
I'll go first. Yeah. Okay.
okay.
So since we've been talking so much about 1954, I'm gonna have to go with its sequel, Raise Again.
Ooh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only because I don't hate the movie because it was one of my first Godzilla. It was my first Godzilla movie. I don't hate Raids Again.
Well-
But when I think about soundtracks, the soundtrack to this is just a little bit forgettable.
I get you.
It's not
just a little bit.
it's not bad. It's just forgettable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, saying that it's bad is not fair because there are some really nice tracks on this. I've listened to the soundtrack. I listened to the soundtrack this week. There are some really good tracks on here. It's just there's nothing that grabs me like Mothra versus Godzilla or 1954 or even Son of Godzilla. There's nothing that sticks with me with this particular record. So I'm gonna have to go with Raids Again.
And that's so weird to me because it was Sato who composed that one too, right?
Yeah, that was
Yep.
Sato's first
Yeah.
one.
Yep.
And like just based off
Yeah,
that,
Sato.
you think he's wouldn't be a great composer, but then he did some amazing stuff for the other movies. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
How about you,
I'll go
Thomas?
with-
Oh,
actually-
sorry.
Well,
I'll go ahead.
Michael,
wanna go
you
next,
did it
Adrian?
again. Well,
Oh, you.
well, you know what? Before I give my true answer, I mean, I was actually really surprised listening to this particular track, this soundtrack, because for some reason I thought the soundtrack was not that good because I didn't consider this film that out of all the Godzilla films from that Showa era, this is one of the bottom 3 maybe at the my mentality of it was so that also left the impression that the music was maybe not that good, and the movie that I was talking about is Godzilla versus the Sea Monsters. Don't go crazy, guys. But
Really?
for some reason I just didn't take it seriously. Maybe I was too critical of the film because maybe I was comparing it to like the 64, Mothra, King Kong, 54, and then 66 comes around. I'm thinking, oh, this is on an island, and kind of, I guess maybe it is the first. It just didn't hit me the same as the other movies. So, but now when I listen, I listened to the whole soundtrack, and I totally changed my mind because when I listened to it, I said, "Hey, this actually is pretty good." So this is not my answer. This is in my. I thought that was going to be one of these soundtracks that was going to be the worst, but it's not. I actually like it. I absolutely like it, and I think it actually lifts up the movie a little bit because I appreciate the music way more now. So now I want to hear it again. So as far as the soundtrack that I found less memorable, I don't know if it's the worst, but it's the one that is Godzilla Raids Again by far. Maybe the opening soundtrack, the opening title track was okay. I've heard of that before, but then as I play through the rest, it kind of just seems kind of mundane. Nothing really, hits me like nothing that I want to hum. So then I end up listening to the whole thing. Some of them, they repeat some of it again. They repeat the opening soundtrack somewhere in there, and I go, okay, I know this one. But overall, I thought it was, as Michael said, forgettable, least memorable, and this is the only soundtrack that is not on my playlist.
Oh wow!
So it's not. I don't listen to it ever.
Wow.
That's a great
This is the first time that I listened to the whole thing straight through. And I was like, oh. Other than the opening title track, that's the one that I recognize.
Yeah.
And I think also what affected me was I didn't see Godzilla Rage Again till much later, so I was unaware of the track. I never watched Gigantus in its entirety. I just peeked at it. I said, "Oh, it's horrible," and the quality of the source that I was watching was brutal, so I had to turn it off. I said, "I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to watch it until I get a clean copy." And that was the Japanese subtitled one. And I watched it within the last few years, and I said, "Hey, you know what? This movie's not that bad. It's not bad." And the soundtrack was okay, but I was more concerned about the movie itself. So the soundtrack was just okay.
Didn't leave that much.
Yeah, it didn't leave any impression. I mean, nothing like the 54. The 54 is like leaps and bounds, hits you way more. 55 was like, what happened? It's something, but it is a different composer, right? So
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so a completely different feeling. But that's the one for me. It's Godzilla Rage Again. So,
all right,
Eric,
I guess it's my turn.
very curious to hear what Eric says.
All right. So I was gonna go with so I have something down. I think I'm gonna change it because thinking about it, it's like it's okay, but I think there's one it's almost like an A and B kind of thing I could do. But I'm gonna go with King Kong versus Godzilla.
Oh,
The Japanese.
Right.
I just don't like it. I there's except for maybe the main title, it's very forgettable. It really is. Like there's not much in there overall.
Even the chanting, even the chanting is forgettable.
The chanting's the same, isn't it, in the American code?
Yeah, it's
the chanting is exactly the same.
Yeah, and that's fine and everything, but that's not going to do it for me to.
Yeah, it's not like
a really good soundtrack. Like it's a fun soundtrack and everything, or song or whatever. It is fun. Like that's probably the most memorable one through the whole thing that I like. But other than that, like there's nothing doing it for me for that at all.
Wow. You have said this before, which is why I was prepared for you to say that. So I'm not hurt by it. I'm just gonna say that.
I was gonna go with something else, but I was like, you know what? I just have to.
Aaron was prepared for Eric to be for Eric to showcase his bad taste. So
I'm just truthful.
It's okay.
All right.
I mean, it's cool that we have different answers.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's about as truthful as AJ saying that Godzilla 2000 is a bad movie. So.
Hopefully he was being somewhat.
He's always tongue in cheek.
He's ribbing.
Oh no, he is. And I know how he feels about that movie. It's very obvious. He said it before.
Well, he got a lot of reaction and stuff, so maybe that was the idea to get people fired up.
Oh yeah,
that was the idea
for sure.
Oh god.
Yeah, I guess to answer the question 5, I'm gonna have to say Godzilla Rage Again also. I know Cody hates us for saying that. I know he's somewhere.
I was thinking of him the whole time.
I know he's like, I know they're gonna keep on Rage again tonight, so let me just not watch the show. But to be fair, though, the masterpiece we got with the original Gojira soundtrack, and then going to Godzilla Rage Again is like completely different.
It's night and day.
It is night and day. Thank you for Michael. That's a great way to say it. And the fact that Soto did it still baffles me, because I
couldn't believe it either.
Because we were going to do this show earlier this year. I was planning to do this show, and I was looking at the composer. I was like, Soto did Rage Again? Are you kidding me? So I was shook when I saw Soto did it. And thank you, Jesus, he learned from that soundtrack, because my God. Rage Again is this bland. It's just boring. It's the only thing that I don't like. The only soundtrack that I put below Rage Again is Godzilla vs. Kong as far as generic soundtracks. Like, that soundtrack is super.
Yeah,
super
GVK
generic.
was generic.
You're talking about 21, right?
Yeah,
the 20. Okay.
Yeah.
That thing's garbage.
Sure.
Oh, it's
garbage.
Easy.
Garbage would be a compliment.
Yeah, I agree.
But anyway, this is
at least Godzilla Rage Again. I can listen to it sparingly, and that's very sparingly, because like y'all said, there's just nothing memorable about that soundtrack. It's just noise in a bad way.
Right.
So I think everyone here has said 55, right? I want to say 55, but just to throw a curveball.
No, Eric said something else.
I already forgot your answer. That's why. But,
he just missed it.
Because Eric's answer was so unimportant. Aaron just forgot about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's just like, no, done.
Well, most of us have said 55, and I want to say that too, almost. But I'm gonna throw a curveball and say, I I don't really, I don't hate it, but I don't really enjoy listening to Destroy All Monsters.
Oh,
Just
okay.
Get out.
Just because
Get out.
all of its high points are things
Get
that.
out.
No,
Leave
I-
the room now.
This is completely serious.
Leave
We're fighting,
the
Aaron. We're
room
fighting now. Okay.
now.
I, ju- I just feel like every good thing it does is done better in other movies, if that makes sense. Like
Facts.
It actually does.
it's not that
Aaron's
it's
right.
not terrible. It's just
No.
it's
Oh
If-
man.
I listen.
just listening to it didn't make me want to listen to it again.
Yeah.
Not in a 55 way,
Heartbreaking.
just not in a oh, I love this soundtrack and all that. It's just it didn't really hit me the same way. Maybe I should give it another chance, but
Is it because
Nah,
it's
you're
more
right,
like
Aaron.
upbeat and everything like that you kind of shy away with it because you like the darker tones?
I want to say that's not it. Although maybe I am biased and I'm not
You are
subconsciously
biased.
because I. Hey, maybe I am, but I did say I like the jazzy upbeat ones, so we'll
That's
see.
true.
I mean, I get what Aaron's saying though, because the only thing
No.
that I remember, the only soundtracks I remember from Destroy All Monsters is just the military marches. Everything else is just
Yeah,
Oh.
it's just like everything else is just like
yeah,
okay, this is good, but it's not new. So
yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah.
think that's why, because we've heard it before, and then they threw in some other themes. Kind of like the military theme. You got that
right,
that rocket ship that's flying. That's what's it
That's
called?
why 3.
Yes, they had the little.
Yes, yeah,
They had a short
SY3.
theme for that, and yeah, I mean it's not the worst, but I didn't dig it quite as much as some of the other ones.
It's a lot of I can see where Aaron's coming from because it's a lot of recycled music.
Mhm.
It's a lot of good recycled music, though.
It is.
That is fair.
I mean,
It's
realistically,
it's a lot like the footage in All Monsters Attack. In All Monsters Attack, it's a lot of good
true.
recycled footage, but it's still recycled footage.
right, yeah.
I get you.
Yeah, so that's my answer. I mean,
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
You do a curveball.
Alright.
Actually, when you say you was gonna throw a curveball, Aaron, I knew he was gonna say that. I was like, oh, it's Destroy All Monsters.
because we have said before, on the was that show specifically for Destroy All Monsters or was it for the
No, we have not done
Showa?
Destroy. That was a show.
We haven't done that.
That was probably
Oh,
just
okay.
Showa, yeah.
But I don't remember what show it was. We have mentioned before though how much I don't really.
How overrated Destroy All Monsters
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I was trying to.
Hey, now.
Who hurt you? Who hurt you?
Hey, I don't shy away from replaying it. I'm just like
Yeah,
not
it's just-
gonna. Not my first
Did
choice.
someone touch you inappropriately at some point while watching Destroy All Monsters? Because that's the only way I can think of anyone hating Destroy. I'm kidding. I'm joking. I'm joking. You're entitled to your own wrong opinion. It's fine.
We got to do a solo show about Destroy All Monsters at some
Oh,
point.
God.
It'll
Oh,
be
man, that
really
would
fun.
be
I can already tell.
Oh, it's,
Get your popcorn ready, boys and girls. It's going to be a battle.
Oh, it's gonna be hot, but
Yeah.
That and Final Wars.
oh yeah,
No.
I wanna.
There's going to be
I
a
wanna
battle,
host
Adrian,
Final
with
Wars.
that one. I'll be battling you, my friend.
You will.
don't make me come in there and try.
I
to
mean,
defend
friendly
Final
battle,
Wars.
friendly battle.
Oh, I can't wait for that show. All right. We've gone
Anniversary's
through
been up in
everybody,
2
right?
years. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so everyone's answered
Yep.
question 5. All right, so question 6. You guys have already kind of touched on this.
Yeah.
What do you think is the best scene that makes great use of its soundtrack? Do we want to keep going clockwise or go?
Any way you want. I mean, you can even answer first if you want, Aaron.
No, I'll go last.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
more interested in hearing your guys' opinions. So, what do you think, Adrian?
Honestly, and actually, I've said this. Well, brought this up in a little while, but actually, Godzilla's theme when Godzilla comes out first appears in Mothra vs. Godzilla. Because I mean, we knew Godzilla was there, but we didn't know Godzilla was there. And then just they get they pick up the radioactivity, like, oh my god, what's going on? And then just boom, 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 boom. Just the way it comes out and the way Godzilla comes out too is just perfection. I love that scene. I love how Godzilla's theme is really how much it's changed. And even though again that was my first time hearing it like that, because I didn't see King Kong versus Godzilla in Japanese, but every time, like as soon as I saw that scene for the first time, I was like, yeah, this is Godzilla's theme, hands down. No one could tell me any differently. So whenever I think about Godzilla's theme, I always go back to that specific scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Eric.
So mine's pretty close to you, Adrian. I'm gonna go with Mothra versus Godzilla, but I'm gonna go with when Godzilla is raiding Nagoya and he actually brings down the castle.
Very close.
And then
Oh,
and then it kind of transitions into when he's attacked by the Frontier missiles by the Americans and stuff like that. Mwah, love it.
Beautiful.
And actually that beach scene with the Frontier missiles is one of my favorite scenes almost of all time. Like it's such a great one. I love that it's in the American version. It sucks that it's not in the Japanese version, but
it does suck.
but you know, it is what it is. But that soundtrack and that scenes, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I once again want to say there's a scene from Mothra versus Godzilla, but I mean, you guys,
Someone's biased here.
But I'm gonna pick. I'm gonna pick another one. I mean, I have to, Mothra versus Godzilla. That's an honorable mention. I mean, there's so many great scenes in that. I mean, obviously, I already talked about it so much already, so I'm gonna change it up a little bit. I mean, I'm gonna say it's gonna be someplace in Son of Godzilla. The reason why is because, Manila or Minya, I guess it was more from when All Monsters attacked where he was bullied. But even in Son of Godzilla, he was small and he was being attacked. He was being attacked by the praying mantises, Kamakuras, and all that. So it kind of brought the feelings of my youth, because of being myself, I was bullied. So that movie and the All Monster Attacks kind of means more to me besides the father and son aspect. But so I just had experience when I was younger. I was being bullied, and I think my brother ran to my where I lived and called my dad. So I felt like Mina and my dad came stomping down and said, "Hey, get away from my boy." So it kind of had a little strange connection, of Godzilla and my youth. So and having dad, my dad is Godzilla coming to help me and saying just hang in there and get away from this guy. So and and also besides that, some of the scenes in there like the island girl, melody was so kind of like pretty. It kind of had this melody, and obviously she was a knockout at least for me. So I was enjoying that scene. Yeah, so I mean, I just keep going back to that, and it's still kind of uplifting. I just really like I really like those tropical scenes, and so that's mainly it. I mean, there's a scene at the end of Son of Godzilla, where they're battling Kumonga, and and they both take care of Kumonga, and then the snow comes down, and that all ties together with just a strong, impactful scene, and the music just was good for me. So Son of Godzilla, besides the movie itself, the soundtrack is really special to me, and I think there's other people in the kaiju community that have similar feelings. Phil, the Kaiju King, Vincent Perez, I think even Greg Benton, they have really strong emotional feelings toward that film. So so I think that's the one for me. Just
I'm
slightly edges over maybe Mothra versus Godzilla, but I love both those films. So.
Thomas, you have good taste, man, because this is my ringtone. This is legitimately my ringtone.
I love that.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
But my answer is, of course, I agree with Adrian.
Of course.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Godzilla's emergence in Mothra versus Godzilla is iconic for a reason, and you can't that is honestly whenever I hear Godzilla's theme from the Showa era come on, this is the scene I think of.
Yes.
I thought about saying that one as well. It's a really close second for me, but I think I'm so biased towards 54 that I just keep thinking about his destruction of Tokyo, how his theme slowly plays over that whole thing. To me, that's one of the most perfect Godzilla scenes ever. So I'm gonna have to go with that.
I get that. I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we've pretty much already explained why it's such
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
just so memorable. It's oh god, I don't even know what else to say about it at this point. It's just what I without repeating myself, but
Yeah.
it's one of those scenes. Just everything about it is, and it's such a well-made scene that it's referenced. It's one of those scenes that's referenced a lot throughout the franchise. One of the ones that did it the best to me is Shin Godzilla. With
Yeah.
that whole thing.
Yeah.
And the music in that scene as well is just it's incredible, and we'll get to it at some point. But yeah, that's my pick.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I
Also,
agree.
also Godzilla, the way his appearance, how he looked was very, menacing.
Very unique,
So
yeah.
it was so cool, and he's still one of the favorites out there. I mean, he's
Beef
Oh, yeah.
super
jerky.
popular.
Yeah, the dark. That's a good point because the way he looks in there is
It's
really
kind of sinister, right?
it's yeah, that sinister look he has, the body language, the angle, the camera angles, it's really complemented by just how dark it is. Usually when these destruction scenes happen, you see everything going on, the explosions, Godzilla stomping over everywhere. But in this scene, how dark it is, it's probably because of, they wanted to hide a lot of the puppetry or the
Yeah.
wires or
Yeah.
whatever.
Mm.
But it really worked for it just because the darkness is it really brings out a noir quality in it. I don't know if that's like the official um, film term for it, but you know what I mean. Just the darkness of it, the shadows. It really works for it. Just everything in that scene works so well. Um, that being said, 54 doesn't its soundtrack doesn't really sound like the rest of the Showa era.
Not at all. No, it doesn't.
So that brings me to our next question, number 7. Would this era have been better with a more unified sound direction like the Heisei era, or do you prefer that it has such varying styles?
Honestly, I prefer that it has such various styles, and honestly, that just solidifies the show as it was. It shows us how much different variety of things that we had in the show era. Because even though I did say him this poop on Rage Again and Eric pooped on 62, like they all have very different, distinct sounds for the most part. The only one, and even the only one that sounds similar is maybe Martha vs. Godzilla and Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. But even Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster had that specific sound to it that's very memorable. So without all the different soundtracks and sounds that we did have in the Showa era, who knows if Godzilla would have survived as long as it did? Because all the differences in the Showa era is kind of what carried the franchise back then. All the different variations of music that we had versus the different type of films that we had as well. Because like with the Heisei era, we know what the tone of the Heisei era was. With Godzilla ever changing in the Showa era, the music had to adapt and grow with Godzilla. So we had to have different scores for different versions of Godzilla in each and every movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna second that and go with the varying styles. I think it just makes every movie so unique in its own way, kind of like what Adrian said. And then you just know, when you hear a particular song from these movies, you actually know exactly what scene it's from and what movie it's from. Like it just kind of pops in your head, like, oh yeah, I know exactly where this is from and what's going on, and you can just literally see the movie in your head. I just love that. And then in a way, it's almost like these films are kind of all linked as one anyways, because as they go on, they kind of all progress and they kind of evolve into their own little iterations of these songs. So it starts at one point and it just kind of changes as it goes on and stuff like that. And even in '69 in Revenge, that it just kind of comes full circle where they're just literally playing the same thing in the movie, and everything. And it's just I just like that they did this because it's so unique. It's wonderful. And I can listen to these music and the songs and just be immersed into these movies again without even having to see it. So, but yeah, I like the differing styles.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, for me, I mean, I like how the different styles, just like what you guys said, it leads to some uniqueness to certain shows, but definitely recognizable. And especially, sometimes they have specific themes for the kaiju that come on screen, whether it's Ghidorah, you can hear the different sound. Even Rodan, especially, when Rodan's coming because they got the Rodan theme in there. So you got all this stuff going on, and yeah, I mean, and also I just from the sound by the unique sounds from that era, it makes me remember each movie a little bit in this. It's kind of hard to say. I mean that it brings out some memories just from the sounds by itself, just the music by itself. But I would not want it any different than how it is right now. I think that's the most that's the way that I would prefer. Sorry, I'm all choked up on my words.
No, you good.
No,
Yeah,
the episode
you guys said it so well. So.
I'm going to echo. I mean, I know I'm going to echo what everybody else is saying, but I just wanted to point out that with the Heisei era, we're essentially, minus some time travel shenanigans, we're essentially following the same Godzilla. Like we're following that one character throughout his journey from 1984 all the way up to Destroya. So we're following one single character, whereas with the Showa era, each film has its own personality. So therefore, the soundtracks have to have their own personality, have to have their own mood to match that personality. The Showa era is unified. I agree with Eric. It is unified to some degree, but in different ways. Like it's unified in we are introduced to some of these core characters like Rodan, Anguirus, Ghidorah, and we follow those characters all the way up through the end of the latter parts of the Showa era. But each film has its own distinct personality. The personality of 54 is not like Megalon, for example, because they're two completely polar opposites. Even to some degree, some would argue that Hedorah is a sort of spiritual successor to 1954, but even Hedorah had its own distinct personality apart from 54.
Oh yeah.
So each film each film's soundtrack has to match that personality, whereas with the Heisei era, the tone doesn't necessarily shift a whole lot from 1984 to Destroya. It just kind of gets ramped up from 1984 to Destroya because we end on a very low point in the franchise. But the tone never really shifts a whole lot outside of a few high points with the Mechagodzilla 2 soundtrack when Ifukube comes back to score that film. Outside of that kind of stuff, the tone never really changes a whole lot with the Heisei era, whereas each Showa film has a very distinct personality unto itself.
Yep.
Yeah, I really gotta agree with all you guys. And I'm surprised too. I thought there was gonna be more varying answers, but not that I was trying to start drama or anything, but
You're always trying to start drama.
Yeah, you is.
Destroy all monsters. You're destroying all
man.
monsters hate.
I remember.
The internet remembers.
Sometimes I forget these are recorded and we can always watch these in back. But yeah, no, I really do think that I really do agree that the Showa era in its own way does have a unified thing going on, where the fact that has a god. Technically, we're following the same Godzilla from 55 to 75, but he's so different from film to film,
Yeah.
and that's, to me, that's not a fault. It's, in a weird way, it's kind of a human thing, because we're all different in different circumstances, and we're not the same person. Because from 55 to 75, 20 years, we're not the same people we were 20 years ago. We're not even the same people we were probably 5 years ago, maybe, and we're not the same people in the morning compared to nighttime, or whatever. So the fact that he changes so much in personality, in design, I really like that his music changes with him. And with how different each film is, I wouldn't wanted to have it more unified like the Heisei era was, because the Heisei era, what happened with that era worked for that era. What the Showa era did with its music, with its different vastly different composers, because the Heisei era had different composers too, but that the Showa era had composers with such different sound signatures and used different sound fonts, use their sounds differently as well. It really worked to make to push what Godzilla could be, because something a lot of people don't consciously think about is the fact that so many things in the franchise were being made on the fly in the Showa era, and that fact alone just makes it so much more experimental than people give it credit for. And somehow not every film was a knockout, and we all have different opinions about which ones the knockouts were, but I think as a whole it really worked out somehow, and it's because of the passion they had behind. I always say this, but so it might sound like a cop-out answer, but that it really is, like, if you have passion for what you're doing, whether or not it works out in a critical sense, I still think it works out in a way where you're accomplishing what you set out to do in the first place, which is just to entertain people. And I don't think it would be as entertaining if it was more unified. Like imagine if every film had the same sound as 54. I don't think, as much as I love that film and its soundtrack, I don't think that should have happened.
Yeah, it wouldn't be as memorable as it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was thinking about just now too, and we'll get there eventually when we talk about the Millennium series. Mm-hmm. I sincerely think that the Millennium series from 2000 to 2004 was the spiritual successor to the Showa era, because if you look at those films and how like crazy they can be, how serious they can be at times, and they all each have their own distinct sound signature. Godzilla 2000 doesn't sound like Tokyo SOS.
No,
and GMK definitely doesn't sound like anything else in that particular era of Godzilla. Same with Final Wars. So it is a I would view both visually and through the soundtrack, I would view the Millennium era as the spiritual successor to the Showa era. Just wanted to point that out. Just wanted to mention that.
Oh no,
yeah, no, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that being said, and you guys have kind of touched on this already, but that brings us to our next question, number 8. What is your unpopular opinion when it comes to Godzilla soundtracks?
Can I go first?
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
Is it gonna hurt me?
Yeah,
it is. Destroy All Monsters is the best 70s soundtrack. Boom, done.
Well, considering it was 1968, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
If I wasn't host, I would have quit out. But anyway. Yeah, 68.
Yeah. That's 60s.
You said 70. You just said 1970 sound.
Yeah, okay, 70s.
Sorry.
Oh.
60s.
I didn't even catch that.
Not to actually you there, Eric, but you know.
Hey. I don't want to rub in your Terra Mecha Godzilla moment either, so okay then.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, Destroy All Monsters, best.
Destroy All Monsters is overrated soundtrack.
Wow.
Thomas?
Yeah, I kind of struggled with this one a little bit. I
It's
mean,
hard.
I listened to the Godzilla's Revenge, All Monsters Attack soundtrack, and I thought maybe it was just an okay soundtrack because the movie was kind of panned by a lot of people, but I still enjoyed it for what it was, and because it also kind of tied in with Son of Godzilla, it showed Minya and it brought in some new footage with Gabra and stuff, but yeah, so I thought that soundtrack was not bad. I thought it was pretty decent. So I don't know if people think that soundtrack's not that good, but I thought it was better than expected.
Is it because they just recycled all the scenes from the other movies that were already good?
Oh, I mean, is that why I'm enjoying the soundtrack? Not necessarily.
Yeah. Is that why?
No, I mean, I just listened to the soundtrack. I just thought it was kind of fun, and through the eyes of a child. So you're watching it, and it's kind of, and yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure if the addition of all the different footage, really made a big difference. I think it just the overall sound of the music. I think that was why I thought it was a little bit better than expected. I was expecting it not to be quite as interesting, but I listened to it. I thought it was pretty good. Just similar to like the 66 Godzilla vs. Sea Monster, which I thought was not going to be that good, but it was surprisingly much better than expected. So it's kind of a tie between those two. But a lot of people I've heard like the 66 soundtrack, so that would not be a big surprise.
Yeah, and kind of piggyback. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. No, I'm basically done.
I was just gonna say to piggyback off of that, like as much as how much I love Godzilla's Revenge, the soundtrack doesn't bother me, honestly. I actually like the soundtrack a little bit. Honestly,
you actually like Godzilla's Revenge?
I like the soundtrack. Thomas knows almost I don't like the movie because we've talked about this before, but I actually
yes.
but I do like the soundtrack. It's a nice soundtrack.
Closet fan.
Michael, go ahead and start burning bridges so we can get canceled. Go ahead.
No, I actually don't have really any. I don't think this is really.
I know it's hard.
Take.
It's hard.
It's hard because I don't think this is I don't think this is a hot take, honestly. But I think the soundtrack to Ghidorah the three-headed monster is better than the soundtrack to Mothra versus Godzilla.
What?
Boy.
Wow.
Shut them down.
I mean, I just
not
I don't really. I'm probably one of those weirdos that doesn't gush over the Mothra song.
That is pretty weird, yeah.
I just don't gush over the Mothra song.
So what part of that soundtrack that you find that's really riveting over the 64 Mothra?
It's a lot more dramatic. I feel like it's a lot more dramatic.
Oh,
because you still have the Godzilla themes. You still have like the accoutrement of the Godzilla franchise, but then you're introduced to Ghidorah, and you get a lot more Rodan, and you get those themes coming into play. It just adds a lot more variety within that soundtrack.
Okay.
Whereas it was mainly just Godzilla's theme, some of the military theme, the Mothra song, and that's it with 1954. Or not 1954, not 1954, 1964.
Okay.
I can respect that.
Yeah.
You're not
the more I think about it, that's fair.
You guys were getting ready to rake me over the coals a minute ago, so.
Yeah, we was about to call Kim.
I still am, so I haven't changed my mind.
It's fine. No, it's fine.
It's a respectable opinion, Michael. I give it to you.
Just because I have reached a higher level of thinking than you, Eric, is not a knock on you at all.
Or is it because you're using other monsters themes just to justify your answer? That's why it's good.
Doesn't matter if it's an inch or a mile, man. Winning's winning. So
family.
Oh my God. Go ahead, Aaron.
Another hot take. I hate the Fast and Furious franchise. There I go.
Oh.
I
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
I
You know what?
hate the Fast and Furious franchise.
So I love those movies the same way I love Final Wars. I know they're really stupid, and they're some of the worst movies I've ever seen. I love them to death because
But
of
they're
that. Final
entertaining,
Wars
though.
is, but okay. So critically, by all accounts, Final Wars, except for maybe the music, and even that's debatable. Final Wars is probably, arguably, one of the worst Godzilla movies ever. Also, it's one of my favorite
Oh, God.
ones ever, and I love watching that more than almost any other Godzilla movie. The whole in the air
Those-
fighting thing.
Like
the-
yeah, like I
with-
said, it's ententertaining. It still
Yeah.
gets you.
it's
very
entertaining. Just because the
strong
movie
words,
sucks doesn't
Aaron.
mean it's not worth watching. So
Hey, I
But
get it,
what-
man. I totally get it.
Yeah, I get it.
But that's, I guess I'm gonna use Aaron's word. I mean, Adrian's word. I can respect that.
and to be fair though, like the Ghidorah theme is just so like
Yeah,
like the way
different.
I love the way it just makes use of all.
Come
its
over to
instruments.
my side, Aaron. Come over to my side.
Don't do
Don't
it.
do
Oh,
it.
I
Don't
don't know.
do it.
I still
Do it.
love 64A too much, so
Yeah, you do.
Come over to my side, young Padawan.
I'll think about it. You gotta bribe me more. But anyway, I don't. To be honest, I don't really have any other unpopular opinions that I haven't already said. The Destroy All Monsters, or I like the Japanese 62 soundtrack more.
Yeah.
I don't really have any crazy opinions. I think,
No,
Yeah,
at
you've
least
had
when it
enough.
comes to say
You've had enough.
I mean,
Calm
it's not
down.
like you're gonna say
that's
that,
fine. Yeah.
it's not like you're gonna say that 1954 is trash or anything like that. So like,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
not
Oh,
even like
Yeah.
that wouldn't just be unpopular. That would
we
just
would
be
we
downright
would have to
wrong.
check your sanity and be like, are you really Aaron? Because
I mean, I like to say that just to get under Adrian's skin, but
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, no. If I'm host, and I'm just saying now, if I said that, I would want you to kick me off. It's just
fair.
it's not. It's
Oh,
such a bad
God.
take.
It's
Yeah.
like rubber testing you taking, Aaron. That's what we say.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But yeah, no. That's I guess that's mine. Destroy All Monsters. I'll pick that one.
Okay,
All right. Well, that brings us to the next question then.
sure.
Question number 9. Do you think the quality of these early soundtracks hold up to the later stuff? And that includes everything like the Monsterverse, Reiwa, Millennium. Like and you could, if you were to say no, you could say it for any reason, like the audio quality or the compositions or.
That one, that's an easy question for me. Of course, it holds up. Without this, we wouldn't have any of these other eras of music.
Mhm.
Because even in the later later films, they take cues from the Showa era. So there's no way
Yes.
that it doesn't hold up, since they're still even using it, even as late as 2019. Think about all the sounds we heard in Godzilla King of the Monsters. 99% that was Showa era. They
Mhm.
borrowed it from the Showa era. So
Mhm.
without the golden era soundtracks, we wouldn't have great Godzilla music still.
no, we would just get GVK. We would just
Yeah,
get
that would-
soundtracks
Oh, I
that
see.
sound like
Oh.
GVK.
Yeah,
it's
that's
gonna-
exactly what we get. You're
That's
right.
the dark timeline.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to blame that solely on COVID. They could have done a better soundtrack than that.
We can have a full discussion about that soundtrack. Because my God,
Yeah.
We should, because I wouldn't have minded if they delayed the movie just for the soundtrack.
I would have delayed it for the whole soundtrack. As
Yeah.
Alyssa knows my thoughts on that soundtrack. Oh my God.
I think they hold up because because of the musical talent that, I mean, I'm not saying that
Yeah.
the modern composers don't do that now, but
Yeah.
like just some of the musical talent that Akira Ifukube and Sato and the others had during that era to do so much with a lot of times so little. And it took a lot of creativity to craft some of these sound effects and sounds. And yeah, some of them, they don't sound as mastered as modern soundtracks, but that doesn't mean you can't just remaster them or you can't just redo them with modern technology. We've seen that done before, But like not Eric, but like Adrian said, there's a reason why the King of the Monsters soundtrack is so good is because they're using those golden era themes.
Yup.
And without those golden era themes, we wouldn't get the warm fuzzies when we watch Godzilla versus King Ghidorah on Antarctica in Old Rivals, and we wouldn't feel so good about the Mothra song even in can't remember the name of the track, but it's like halfway through the movie and she's awakening and she spreads her
Under
wings.
the waterfall.
Right,
Yeah.
It's under the waterfall and it's beautiful and all that stuff.
Yep.
Like we wouldn't feel such a way about it if it were not the for the golden age soundtracks that we got.
Yeah, like I agree. Like I mean, it definitely lives up to it, and it surpasses anything that we've gotten recently. I mean, honestly, like you were saying, Michael. Like I think I said this earlier, is that the themes for these kaiju monsters, whatever, like it is part of them. You know, same thing with their roars and stuff like that. Like it makes them what they are and why we like them. And that's the one soundtrack that the recent monster movies that made in King of the Monsters is why it was actually so good, is that they brought back the old stuff and they just kind of remastered it, you know, added to it, whatever. And we loved it. Everybody was clamoring for it. We thought we were going to get more of that with, you know, the next one. And then we just got trash. I'm sorry, but it's not good. And I'll die on that hill alone if I have to, but like it's.
Oh no, we're dying on it with you. Don't feel bad.
I don't care
I'm
if,
with you.
You know, he did Fury Road and stuff like that. I don't know what he did or why he did it this way, but it's terrible.
Yeah.
And it's like if they would have went with Bear McCreary, you know, with the next one, I think it would have been phenomenal and would have even put that movie even up another level than it already is. You know, for the MonsterVerse, and it just would have made it a really special film because you could have brought back, you know, special soundtracks from the old Kong movies and stuff like that. I mean, who knows, you know? But
it's like they didn't go. It's like they didn't go far enough with. I don't want to harp on.
Very conservative.
I don't want to pick on
exactly.
GVK.
It's conservative.
Yeah, it's very, very conservative. Very, very, very conservative. Like they didn't like when you listen to Godzilla's appearance in what is it? It's not Hong Kong. It's somewhere else. But when you listen to Godzilla's appearance,
Pensacola?
Yeah, Pensacola.
Pensacola. That's it. Pensacola, Florida. That's right. When you listen to Godzilla's appearance, you can hear shades of the theme there.
Yeah.
It's like it's big and bombastic, and like you can hear shades of that. But if you're going to go that far with it, you might as well just go all the way.
Yeah,
and that's the part that really just made me mad about that sound. Now, I love GVK because it's a it's a fun freaking movie.
Yeah,
but the soundtrack is lackluster, which is why I haven't bought it yet because you can buy the record, so I haven't even bothered to get it yet. It's just not something I listen to a lot.
Yeah, it's not memorable in any way, not like the old stuff where like, you know, you can think back as you were a kid and stuff like that and watching this stuff and just how cool it was to, you know, to hear it's, you know, and like I said before, it just kind of connects with the movies and stuff like that. It puts you in that place, that location, that scene, everything, and it's fun. It's great, and you know, it'll always, you know, be with you. So yeah, these new movies, they definitely have to step it up because, you know, if you're going to take these larger than life characters and make movies like this, like you have to add that kind of stuff to it for people to really love it, especially like the diehards. Like I understand now with the newer generation coming in and stuff, if they like it, perfect, fun, awesome. That's good, you know, but you know, for the older fans and stuff like that who have been doing this for a long time, like that's what we really want. That's what we're clamoring for. You know, it's fun to have all these action scenes and stuff like that and fighting, whatever, but like give us some of those Easter eggs and stuff like that we can like, oh my god, you know, like they did this and stuff like that. That's what we get excited for.
Right.
Oh,
thanks.
Since
Adam.
Since a MonsterVerse discussion, soundtrack discussion coming up soon. That's gonna be.
No, we don't have to.
We don't have to,
worth
but
talking about.
I think you guys already answered this question like perfectly. You guys have said everything that I was even thinking about mentioning. I mean,
that's such a cop out. That's such a cop out, Thomas.
But,
you gotta.
But I gotta tell you, I mean, I do agree. I mean, without these original classic Showa soundtracks, we wouldn't they wouldn't get the inspiration, or they would be able to play these in the future so that we can appreciate them again. As Eric says, we're just dying to hear it again. We're clamoring to hear it, and I fully agree because the soundtracks mean a great deal when you're watching a movie, and especially for us. Uh, we call it diehard fans. I mean, we just love to hear the classic themes, and and also when you hear the Showa tracks, it's from that era because of the instruments that they
Right,
use.
yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
and as someone else said, they did the best with what they had. They don't have the most modern orchestra, but it was still you can still hear the quality, and it was very impactful anyway. So I mean, I think it's fine the way it is. I mean, I appreciate the older stuff, and I think it holds up really well. And without the past, we wouldn't have the future, right? So I think that's yeah. So I think the early soundtracks, they hold up really well.
Well,
I
and
think
too,
something
like,
else.
oh, go ahead, Michael.
I was just gonna say that, just really quick. I think one thing worth pointing out too is in those older Showa films, especially like we keep talking about 1954, that you can hear them using traditional Japanese instruments that you don't
Yes,
hear
Mhm.
throughout you don't hear in modern-ish Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you hear them using I don't know, I'm not a musician, so I don't know the names of the instruments, but you can hear them using those traditional like stringed instruments and horns and things like that in those films, and that's what makes them special. So go ahead, Eric.
I agree.
Well, and I was just gonna add, like, in the old stuff, you can actually, there's feeling behind the music. Like, it's not just stuff that's made up on an audio board like it is today, and it's just whatever. Like,
Yes.
they actually like try to maybe picture the scene and how they think it would feel music wise and everything. And it's just today's you can't duplicate that, and it's not the same.
Yeah. It's not.
Yeah, and what's so crazy about that is supposedly a lot of the time, even with just Fukube, even though all the composers had this experience, they weren't even given footage of the movies themselves. They were just given
Nope. It
descriptions
sure
or
wasn't.
storyboards, and just from that alone, they were able to create those
Yeah.
by now legendary themes and sounds.
Mhm.
The fact that they were able to do that, and a lot, I'm not knocking like modern, like a lot of modern composers can still create some really good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because there's so many more composers and music being made now, there's so much more bad stuff being made now as well,
Yeah.
and we hear way too much of it. Like with I don't know what like we're gonna keep on this channel, we're gonna keep harping on GBK. It's because it deserves the hate.
Yes.
So Eric said that it's not memorable in any way. I'm gonna go the other way and say it's memorable for all the wrong reasons because it makes me hate
Yep.
it that much more.
That's true.
Because
Good.
like Michael was saying, it goes so far to tease you, like,
Being
hey,
Godzilla,
look,
yeah.
remember this, but it's not. It doesn't go all the way, and it just
Mhm.
says, oh, never mind, and then it's just. I don't know what was up with that. They either should have just went with something completely new,
Yeah.
or just have, I don't know, like delayed the movie to make it better. There are so many other ways they could have done it, and the reason it's so bad isn't necessarily because it doesn't have the old recognizable themes, because you could still, like, think of the Showa era. They were making new music constantly,
Yep.
not necessarily relying on the old themes,
Yep.
and it worked for. There are a lot of ways it worked, like the first
Even
time they used.
2014, that was an original soundtrack, but I
Yeah.
love listening to that soundtrack. It's a really good soundtrack.
And I appreciate that composer, I forget his name. I appreciate that he tried to do his own thing without relying on old themes, without necessarily using the old themes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just sorry, I feel like I started rambling just because I hated GPK's soundtrack so much. But,
No,
the
but it's true.
reason
Yeah.
the reason that soundtrack doesn't hold up. Oh, I'm getting back on my train of thought. The reason that soundtrack doesn't hold up isn't necessarily because it doesn't use the old themes. It's because it doesn't try to make anything new and lasting itself. Like think of all the themes we love so much now. They weren't always there. At some point, they were new themes too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Exactly.
and it's just a lot. The compositions back then really respected the art of music itself. Like with Ifukube, even before he started doing film work, he was already a respected composer in classical music. He was a professor at, I don't know which school it was. Like he was a music professor at one of the esteemed universities in Japan. All the composers that worked on Godzilla stuff, whether they were classical musicians already or already doing work on Godzilla films or in films in general. Like I know one of them, I think it was Sato. Correct me if I'm wrong. Who was working on films with who's the guy who did? Shoot, I should know this. He's such a legendary director. The guy who worked with Mifune, the guy who did Seven Samurai and all like the Fortress
I know you. I
one.
know you're talking about. I forgot his name
Yeah, he
too.
I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was Sato who worked on films with that guy
Yeah, it was
too.
Sato. It was Sato.
Yeah. Shoot.
Yeah.
Really, while you're thinking about that, the guy that composed 2014 was a French composer, Alexandre Desplat, and I'm probably butchering that. Desplat, because he's French. I'm probably butchering that, but he
Oh, yeah.
composed. He composed Shape of Water. He's composed
He's
Harry Potter
composed
movies.
Yeah.
The King's Speech, Benjamin Button. He's composed a lot of films that have really good scores. So that's why the 2014 score was so good and unique.
And why it has such compared to the rest of the MonsterVerse, why it has such a unique sound signature is like when you hear song themes from that movie, you know it's from that movie.
Exactly.
Oh, and I just looked it up. The guy we were thinking of, or I was thinking of, was Akira Kurosawa.
Okay.
The fact that Sato worked with a director like that, he knew the art, even though he really only did film work and music, he knew the artistry required the standards he was held up to make good music. 55 wasn't a good starting point, but he, like Adrian said, he learned his lesson, did way better later on. So these composers knew you couldn't just phone it in, just do what you think is serviceable, because that's probably what the GVK composer thought, and it's not. So, the fact the Showa era themes hold up really well just because they respected their craft that much. Even back then, it was just kaiju movies or just schlocky B movies, sci-fi movies, whatever. They loved their work enough and respected themselves enough as composers, and respected the work of their peers that much, that they knew they had to put their heart in it. Is basically all. I always come back to the whole there's passion behind it, but that's really all it is. I don't feel the passion in GVK's soundtrack, and I don't hear the passion behind a lot of soundtracks now, where the soundtrack is just oftentimes, even with really popular movies, you won't even really hear it. It's just part of the background, and it's like, oh, was there a song there? I didn't know that. So,
It'd be like that. Go ahead, Michael.
It's really like it's really weird because modern movies, they'll, especially like ones that are like mainstream movies, there is a score there, but sometimes that score will get overshadowed by insert current pop culture song here, or insert latest Taylor Swift song here. They'll insert actual music into the movie instead of letting the score speak for the movie, and then you just have to go on iTunes and download the score, and that's how you get the score a lot of times. And it's
yeah, exactly. And again, I'm not trying to shade on modern composers or anything at all, because there's still a lot of good work being done.
There is.
But it's way too often nowadays that you see that kind of work being done. Just not people doing things because they like it and it's popular, and not necessarily because it's what works for the movie, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Kind of like I've always said about music. Music makes the movie that much better.
Right. Yeah.
Like Eric said earlier, can you imagine how much better Godzilla vs. Kong would have been with a better soundtrack? Just even just a little bit. Even just a little bit. It could have been so much better.
Yeah.
And whenever I go back to my favorite Godzilla movies, 9 times out of 10, my favorite soundtracks are behind those Godzilla movies. So that music really does make a difference, and that's why Showa movies, that's why Showa soundtracks are so different from all other eras of Godzilla, because they really help tell the story, not just by watching the movie, but like we've all said today. Because when I'm doing a photo shoot, I listen to Godzilla music all the time. All the time I'm doing photo.
Oh
shoots.
yeah, I do the same.
So that always plays in my head. So I'm essentially always watching Godzilla when I'm listening to music, because the music tells me the story.
Yeah.
And that, I'm so glad you said that, because that brings us back to why, with these early movies at least, you can separate the soundtrack from the movie and still have its own entertainment entertainment experience, and why it works so well. And it's not just like this track reminds you of this part in the movie. It's more like this track has its own feeling, and the composition makes you feel your own emotions, which may not even be what the film, like, it could totally be divorced from what was actually happening in the movie itself. And that's what's so great about it. It'll give you your own, it has its own identity with how you feel about it. And that's the thing in general, it just has an identity, period.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think we're on the last question now, right, Aaron?
Yeah, sorry. No, I was letting it.
He's just losing.
I was lost in thought, because I feel like I ranted a lot there, and
no,
it's all good. Hey, it's all good points, man. It's all good points.
Yeah.
All right, but thank you for bringing us back on track. So that brings us to the last question, number 10.
Mhm.
Which theme should be reused in a modern film? Or another way to put this is, are there old films that you don't really see too often being used in later films that you would want to see again?
This one should be easy. I think Michael would appreciate this. The Birth of King Ghidorah. King Ghidorah's theme should have been reused, because out of all the themes that we got in King of the Monsters, I hated Ghidorah's the most. I hated King Ghidorah's. I do not remember it to save my life. It
Rodan's
comes on, I have to look
cool,
at my phone like, oh, that's Ghidorah's theme. Okay.
Yeah.
They definitely should reuse Ghidorah's theme on there.
Mhm.
And Mega Godzilla's also, but that's a different era. But definitely Ghidorah's theme.
Mhm.
In this case, it was a licensing issue, right? Like, he couldn't use it even if he wanted to.
I'm guessing.
Probably.
I guess so. Probably.
Because the good work he did with the reuse, the themes he did reuse, were phenomenal. So it can't just be that he was lazy about it, I think.
No, something had to happen where he couldn't use it.
Yeah.
So I bashed on this one earlier, the soundtrack. But there's one track that I think would be kind of cool, nice callback. Just because we are getting another Godzilla and Kong movie, whatever. Give me the chanting from Pharaoh Island when he's sleeping and stuff like that. Like, just give a little callback, shout out, whatever, to that little scene and stuff like that. Maybe he's sleeping, in the Hollow Earth. I don't know. I don't care. But like, just throw that in there. Give Kong like a little bit of love for a theme or something like that, so he can have something. And then I guess a 1B would be basically bring back Godzilla's theme. Like, seriously, like we were talking about it with GVK. Like, seriously, bring his theme back. That's all I want.
Well, you said my answer next. No.
I was like, holy cow.
No. Well, I mean, that's perfect. I mean, that's what was really missing is in these modern films is the recognizable themes. I mean, Ghidorah was one big one that I was waiting for. Maybe Rodan too a little bit. I don't think they played Rodan music either, right? No,
but Rodan's theme was awesome.
Oh yeah,
but the existing one was okay. But
Rodan's theme is really similar to the Rodan theme, or the Rodan from 2019's theme is really similar to the Showa theme because it's got those high horns.
It's pretty close.
But it's pretty close, but it's not. It's not completely there.
Yeah, but that soundtrack was pretty good for me, so I wasn't really too upset about the music because at least they had the Godzilla theme, and that's the main one that I wanted. I mean, it's hard to get all the themes in, and as Aaron said, probably was some kind of licensing or they just couldn't get the rights to do it. And I think that's why also they weren't able to get all the roars because I really wanted to hear. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but did we hear a little bit of Ghidorah's roar somewhere in there? Really subtle.
It was a really
You would have to have
modernized
super
way
hearing.
It's
'cause I was
there,
listening-
yeah.
yeah, I was like, where is it? Where is it? I don't hear it. I said, I mean, it's like a generic roar, so I was disappointed in that. But
Yeah,
I mean,
that's fair.
I just wish we had a little bit more authentic roars. I mean, but that's another story. But as far as the theme that I wish was in a modern film, definitely, I really would want to hear the Kong, some kind of Kong theme, whether it's Godzilla and Kong fighting from the '62 film, whatever they want to remix it or anything they want to bring it in to this next installment, I would be so happy. Holy cow! I hear that theme from Michael's phone.
Whoops.
Don't play it.
Yeah. So
Copyright.
that would be wonderful. I'm really praying that they hear fans' wishes that they would bring back some of this classic music. That would really bring the level of the movie up. Just like you guys have said multiple times for the 21 film, if they had used some different music, it just would have elevated the film to the stratosphere. I think I mean, the soundtrack was generic. It was like any other typical action film theme, just in the background. Wasn't really memorable because I can't remember anything from it as far as music. I can't remember anything. But I do remember, but at least Kong, Godzilla, Gia, the little girl, all these little things really sticks to my head. So it still makes it a really great movie for me. Maybe not perfect, but I really liked it. I watched it a couple times.
For sure. Yep.
So really enjoyable. It was really enjoyable. So thank goodness for the key elements of the actual characters saved the movie for me. Because if that was bad and the music was bad, then I'll be so disappointed. So. That's it for me.
Bring back the Ghidorah theme, obviously, but also bring back Minya's theme from Son of Godzilla.
Hey, to be honest, I'm surprised they haven't brought in some kind of Minya surrogate already,
That's
in the
what Doug
monster. Or like
is, I
Junior
guess.
or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm all for that.
I'm actually being deadly serious. Like, I would like them to do some kind of whimsical, like very upbeat, kind of charming little theme for some. I don't know what they would do it for, but bring
Probably
back
something
something
with Kong and Gia, maybe. They can do it.
Yeah.
With Kong and
Or
Gia.
if the rumors are true, then Son of Kong, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe that'd be.
Oh,
fun.
you just
Or
said
if-
no spoilers. But I was kidding.
That is not
You could
spoiler.
have warned me. I would close my ears. No,
Well,
I actually
you know.
did hear about that as a rumor, so
Yeah,
it's all right.
yeah. It's hard
If
to
it's-
avoid rumors in this.
I
film.
try my best to avoid them.
It is. If it's gonna be Godzilla and Kong battle for Earth, I mean, I guess you could work Minya in there somewhere.
You could work. Yeah, you could do a lot of things. You don't know what's. Yeah, you don't know what kind of things that could be going on.
Doug.
Gabra,
Doug, yeah.
you know,
Yeah, make him the.
Gabra. It was Gabra
Junior.
all along. It was Gabra all along.
It might be a Gabra that looks, that's much more deadly. You never know.
I hope it's not like. I hope it's not like some garbage monster like Biolante or something.
Oh,
That's pretty harsh.
Oh.
Speaking of hot takes.
That's pretty harsh. Oofda.
I don't know. I just, I don't know about you guys. I just can't wait for the next movie. I just can't wait.
No, I can't wait either.
I just
For
don't
the
want to think about it.
For the
I
next
just-
everything, like seriously.
Yeah.
Like,
The TV show, the movie.
so
Everything.
much. So much. Oh my god.
and of course, we hope there's good music in all of them. Please,
Yes, for love of God.
please.
For the love of God.
No bad music.
Oh.
Well, speaking
Oh,
of good
boy.
music, though, there isn't really. It's like like a whole class of themes I would want them to bring back. Not just the Mothra theme, but everything associated with it, like the Shobiji or the Cosmos theme.
Mhm.
I really like their melody there. The Sacred Fountain, the
Scared Spring?
I think, yeah, oh yeah, the springs. I think in the 64 soundtrack, it's called Little Beauty's theme or something like that, where it's just like the little jingle, no vocals or anything. I
Yeah.
wish they'd bring back more of that. And if they do bring back Malta's theme again, make it not just instrumental like it
Yeah.
was in 2019. Make it like the actual the vocals.
Singing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd
it's
love
the
that.
little beauties.
Yeah. I always thought it was just a neat little magical thing to listen to because it sounds so isolated too. I don't know if it's just the mixing of it or like just what audio equipment they had on hand back then. But something about the quality makes it seem magical, like it's transporting you to a different place when you listen to it, which might have been the point because they're a little fantastical. But I love them to bring back those themes and also the feelings that come with them.
Well, it looks like we'll have some interesting talk for the next eras of music. We got a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
But this was really good, guys.
Yep.
It was like I told Thomas last week. Me and him did Heisei Harmonies. Music's not talked about enough, and music is, again, like I said earlier, it's so keen to movies, especially Godzilla movies. So I'm really glad we got to have this discussion. It was a really great.
It is. It's like you said. I haven't dug deep into this at all, and so it's kind of eye-opening for me. But it's also at the same time, it's very hard to describe. At the same time, I mean, I know we kind of have a group chat and we've talked and stuff like that, but like we mentioned in there, like it's hard to put into words how this stuff makes you feel sometimes. So it's I think it's something that people like to shy away from because it is so hard to describe this kind of stuff and everything. So I'm glad we're tackling it and everything, and more to come.
Unless you're in it. Like I said, I'm not a musician, so unless you're in it and you're a musician and you know how to speak that language, it's really hard. It's really hard to talk about this. But just it's easier to talk about the music for these movies because we love them so much and we know how they make us feel and they know how they've what we love about them. We love the visuals as much as we love the music, or we love the music as much as we love the visuals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So this was a really good conversation, guys.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys saying everything that you did because I always expect different opinions whenever we do these things, but it's music especially because I'm not like a musician, but I did grow up learning to play music and like being in that world. It was more of a hobby than anything else. So being able to talk about music has always been one of my favorite things about appreciating anything I appreciated. Like imagine Star Wars without its themes or just any big iconic thing without its music. It'd be
Superman.
a totally different thing. Superman without its music. Whether you're talking about the old one or the new Man of Steel.
Indiana Jones? Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, no, that was fine.
Josh?
Let's just say John Williams in general.
You're right.
John Williams.
Yeah, that might be another show, but it's not kaiju related.
It's not, but that's right. That's why we all have individual channels.
I do have a quick question though, like rapid fire for everybody. Top 3 out of the 50s and 60s. Go.
Oh shoot. Where are we starting? Which way?
Thomas, go.
What top 3? What?
Top 3 out of the 50s and 60s.
You mean soundtrack?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh darn. Okay. Well, easy. Well, easy. 64.
Okay.
67.
Okay.
And 54.
Okay. Michael.
54. Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, and Son of Godzilla.
Aaron?
Oh, I forgot about that one. I like that one a lot too.
Shoot. Okay. 54, 64, 67.
Adrian?
64, 54, 66.
I'll go 64, 68, 54.
Nice. I forgot. What did I say again? 64, 54. And what did I say?
67.
67.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm good.
I'm surprised you didn't say 64 for all 3 of them.
I can't.
That would be funny.
That
64,
would be
64.
crazy.
Well, 64A,
Oh yeah, there's
64B.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he meant A all throughout.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Well, does anyone have anything else they want to share before we end this?
No, I think
What's
we're
for
good,
dinner?
man. What's for dinner?
Shoot. I have
Well,
no
what's
idea. Maybe I'll
our
go.
what's our next show? What's our next show going to be?
Millennial retrospective, December
right.
17th.
Oh,
Ooh.
Are we doing a memorial show for the people that we
Oh
that
yeah.
that have passed away this year?
Yeah, we probably can.
Yeah, we should do that like towards the end of December or something.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe
before
right
the new
before
year.
we do the figure of the year discussion, possibly
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
okay.
That's a good time for that, I think.
All right.
Yeah, December 17th. That's our next show, guys.
December 19th.
All right.
All right. Well,
I
with
know-
that said, oh,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, with that said, it was a great discussion. Thank you for anyone who stuck around with us.
Thank you, everybody.
And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great night,
Bye,
Kaiji
guys.
family.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.